He had everything: a home built by his grandfather's hands, a father who would have given his last breath for him, a name that carried weight in every village from here to Jerusalem. But sometimes everything is not enough. What happens when you look at the life you were given and decide it is a prison? What happens when you leave behind the people who love you most to chase a freedom that does not exist? And what happens when that freedom becomes a nightmare you cannot wake up from? This is a story about mistakes, about consequences, about hitting the very bottom of what a human being can endure. But more than anything, this is a story about a father who did something that no one in the crowd expected, something so shocking that the religious leaders who heard it wanted to walk away, something that will stay with you long after this story ends. One son who walked away, one father who never stopped watching the road, and one moment that will change how you understand love forever. Stay with me until the end, because the final scene of this story carries a question that Jesus never answered. And the reason he never answered it is because the answer was never meant for the characters. It was meant for you. The night the younger son turned 7, his father carried him to the rooftop. The boy gripped the old man's robe, the way children grip the only safety they know. The father turned his face toward the sky. "Count them for me." The boy squinted, his lips moved. 1, 2, 7, 15. He made it to 43 before his eyes grew heavy. His head dropped against his father's chest. His breathing slowed. The father did not move. He sat on that rooftop, holding his sleeping son, while the stars turned overhead. He felt the boy's heartbeat against his own, small and fast. He whispered into his son's hair, "When you feel lost, look up. The same stars that watched over your grandfather are watching over you. They will always lead you home." He held him until dawn. That was 11 years ago. The estate still stretched across the hills of Judea. Olive groves, vineyards, wheat fields golden under the sun. A good land, a blessed land. But the house felt different now, quieter. The mother had been gone 16 years, taken by fever, when the youngest was still learning to walk. The father had buried his grief in the soil and poured his love into raising 2 boys alone. The elder son grew into the land itself, steady, silent. He worked beside his father from dawn to dusk. The earth beneath his feet was enough. The younger son was different. He had his mother's eyes, always searching, always looking past the horizon. While his brother worked the fields, the younger son wandered to the hill where the road began. He watched merchants pass, with stories of distant cities. The father noticed. He always noticed. One evening, he found his son staring at the western sky. "Still counting stars?" "Counting places I have never seen." The father placed his hand on his son's shoulder. He recognized that restlessness. He had seen it in the boy's mother. His hand would not be enough to make him stay. The request came 3 days later. The father sat in the courtyard mending a net. The morning was quiet, ordinary. The elder son worked in the distant fields. A shadow fell across the stones. "Father, I need to speak with you." The father looked up and smiled, but something in his son's voice made the smile die. "I want my share of the inheritance, now." The father's hands stopped. The net slipped from his fingers. I need to pause the story here. In first century Jewish culture, inheritance was transferred at death, only at death. To ask for it while your father still breathed was to say, in the clearest possible language, "I wish you were dead. You are worth more to me as a corpse than as a father. Give me what your death would give me, because I cannot wait for you to die." This was not teenage rebellion. This was social annihilation. In many households, this would have been answered with a beating, or banishment. The father looked at his son, the boy he had carried to the rooftop, the boy who had counted 43 stars and fallen asleep on his chest. "Do you know what you are asking me?" The son stared at the ground, his jaw tight. "I know." From the doorway, the elder son watched, arms folded, face like stone. In their tradition, the older brother should step in, defend the father's honor. He did not move. The silence stretched like a wound. The father rose slowly. His legs felt weak. He looked at his son one final time, searching for doubt, for hesitation. He found nothing. "Then it is yours." He turned and walked into the house. That night, the father counted the coins himself. He sat alone, dividing silver and gold into piles with trembling hands. Each coin represented something. A harvest survived. A drought endured. A year of labor under the sun. He placed them in a leather bag and felt the weight of a lifetime in his palms. He called his son. "Sit with me before you go." The son hesitated, then sat. The father held the bag between them, but did not let go. "Let me pray for you." "Father, that is not necessary." "Please." "May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you. May he bring you safely home." His voice broke on the last word. He pressed the bag into his son's hands. Their fingers touched. The son pulled away first. The next morning came gray and cold. Fog hung over the hills, hiding the road that led away from home. The younger son moved quickly. He did not stop at his mother's portrait. He did not look into his father's room. At the gate, the father waited, silent, still, like a man watching his own heart walk away. "Goodbye, father." The son turned and walked into the fog. He did not look back, not once. The father stayed at the gate until long after his son had vanished. That evening, the elder son found 3 plates set at the table. He removed the 3rd plate himself and sat down to eat in silence. The father could not touch his food. Later that night, alone in his room, he fell to his knees and wept, deep, shaking sobs that no one else could hear. But the next morning, before the sun rose, he walked back to the gate. He stood where the road began and looked toward the horizon. He would return to this spot every morning for months, watching, waiting, just in case. Today was the day. The city rose from the horizon like a dream made of stone. The younger son had never seen anything like it. Towering walls, crowded streets, music spilling from every doorway. The air smelled of roasted meat and exotic spices and possibility. He stood at the gates with his bag of coins and smiled. "This is it. This is the life I was made for." He rented a house in the wealthy district. He bought robes of purple and crimson. He threw open his doors, and strangers poured in, drawn by free wine and the rumor of a young man with money to burn. They laughed at his jokes. They chanted his name. They called him brother and friend, and swore they would never forget his generosity. One evening, a servant handed him a letter. He recognized his father's handwriting, slow, careful, familiar. He threw it into the fire without opening it. He watched his father's words curl and blacken and disappear. Later that night, he stepped onto the balcony. He looked up. The stars looked the same here, but they felt farther away. He shook off the feeling and went back to the noise. Walking home from a banquet days later, he passed a beggar slumped against a wall, filthy, hollow-eyed. "Please, sir, anything." The son laughed and tossed a coin at the man's feet. "Get up and work like everyone else." He walked on without looking back. He did not know he was staring at his own future. The coins ran out faster than he expected. One morning, he reached into the bag and found only a handful of silver. He stared at it, confused. There had been so much. He sold the furniture, then the robes. Each sale bought a few more days of pretending, but everything had changed. The guests stopped coming. The music faded. The people who had chanted his name now passed him on the street without a glance. Then the famine struck. Crops withered, wells dried up, bread became more precious than gold. He searched for the friends who had sworn loyalty over his table. Every door closed, every face turned away. That night, he slept on the ground for the first time. The stones were cold. His stomach ached with emptiness. The city that had promised him everything no longer knew his name. Hunger drove him out of the city. He walked from farm to farm, begging for work. Most turned him away. Finally, a farmer looked him over. "Can you feed pigs?" In first-century Jewish culture, pigs were the embodiment of everything profane. To touch a pig made you unclean. To feed them placed you outside the covenant entirely. A Jewish man who fed pigs was not just poor, he was erased. This young man, who had been blessed under the stars of Abraham, was about to sleep in a pig pen. His stomach twisted. Everything his father had taught him screamed at him to refuse. "Yes, I can feed pigs." The farmer pointed to a muddy pen at the edge of his land. "Sleep with them. Feed them. I will send scraps when I remember." He did not remember often. Days blurred into weeks. He lived in filth, sleeping in mud, waking to the stench of waste. Flies covered everything. The pigs shoved past him as if he did not exist. His ribs pressed against his skin. His robes, once purple and crimson, were now brown with mud. One evening, he poured carob pods into the trough and watched the pigs destroy them. His stomach screamed. His mouth watered. Slowly, he knelt beside the trough. His hand trembled over the slop. Am I really going to eat what pigs refuse to finish? He caught his reflection in a puddle of filthy water. Hollow eyes, sunken cheeks, a stranger. What have I become? He pulled his hand back. He sat in the mud, knees to his chest. He had never felt so alone. That night, he looked up. The stars were there, the same stars his father had shown him on the rooftop when he was 7. He could almost hear the voice. When you feel lost, look up. They will always lead you home. Home. The word pierced through the numbness like a blade. He buried his face in his filthy hands and wept. Not for what he had lost, for what he had thrown away. He did not sleep that night. At dawn, a voice drifted across the fields. A farmer calling for his child. "Son, where are you? Come home." The voice sounded so much like his father's that for one moment, he believed it was real. How many of my father's servants have food to spare? And here I am, starving to death. The thought cut through everything. The shame, the fear, the pride. He could die here alone and no one would mourn him. Or he could go home. Not as a son, but maybe his father would let him work. He rose slowly. His legs shook. But something had awakened. Faint, fragile, hope. I will go to my father. I will say, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." He did not look back at the pigs.
The journey took many days. He walked without sandals. Sharp stones cut his feet. The sun burned his cracked skin. He begged for scraps along the way. Some gave, most did not. Each night he rehearsed his speech. "Father, I have sinned. I am not worthy. Make me a servant." He said it so many times the words became a heartbeat, the only thing keeping him moving. On the final morning, He climbed the last hill, and there it was, the estate, the vineyards, the house where he had counted stars. His legs trembled. What if he refuses to see me? He almost turned back. He forced his feet forward, down the hill, toward the gate. He did not know that his father had already seen him. Every morning for months, the father had walked to the gate, rain or shine, before the sun rose, his lips moving in the same prayer. Bring him home. Please, bring him home. And then he saw him, a figure in the distance, ragged, thin, limping, so thin it looked like a ghost. The father's breath stopped. His hand gripped the gate until his knuckles turned white. He squinted against the light, afraid to believe. But he knew that walk, even broken, even barely standing. A father knows his son. I need to stop the story one more time. In first-century culture, a patriarch never ran. Running required lifting your robes and exposing your legs. For an elder, this was deeply humiliating. But there is something else. In many villages, there was a ceremony called the kazaza. If a Jewish son lost the family inheritance among Gentiles and returned, the village elders would meet him at the edge of town. They would break a clay pot at his feet and declare him cut off, permanently. The father knows this. He knows the village will destroy his son if they reach him first. He is not just running toward his son. He is running to get there before the village does. He is sacrificing his own dignity to shield his son from the judgment he deserves. Something burst inside the old man's chest. Not anger, not judgment, love, fierce and wild. And the father ran. An old man sprinting down a dirt road like a child, arms open wide, tears already streaming. Servants stopped and stared. This was not how elders behaved. But love has never cared for dignity. The son saw him coming. He is running to strike me, to curse me. He braced for the blow. It never came. The father threw his arms around his filthy, pig-stinking son. He pulled him so close he could feel the bones beneath the skin. He buried his face in his son's neck and wept, loud, shameless. The son stood frozen. Then his legs buckled. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your... The father pulled back. He took his son's face in both hands. Bring the best robe, quickly. The son blinked. The father turned to the servants, his voice ringing with joy. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Kill the fattened calf. We will celebrate. My son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. The sun broke, and for the first time since he walked into the fog, he wept in his father's arms. Not from shame, from the unbearable weight of being loved when he deserved nothing. The servants brought warm water. They washed his feet, cracked and bleeding and caked with dust. The filth of the pig pen swirled away. They placed the robe on his shoulders. Not any robe, the father's own robe, the garment of honor. The ring meant authority. The sandals meant family. Servants went barefoot. Sons wore shoes. Every gift was a declaration. You are not a slave. You are my son, and nothing you have done can change that. His father took his hand and led him inside, down the hallway, to a door, his old room. Everything was exactly as he had left it. The blanket his mother had woven, the wooden toy, the small stone from the field. You kept everything. I never stopped believing you would come home.
That evening, the courtyard overflowed. Torches flickered. Neighbors gathered. The fattened calf had been killed, but from the fields, the elder son heard the music. He had worked since dawn, as he always did. He grabbed a passing servant. What is this? Your brother has come home. Your father has killed the fattened calf. His face hardened. He walked to the courtyard edge and stopped. He could not go inside. The father came outside. Come inside. Join us. I have slaved for you my entire life. I never disobeyed you, and you never gave me even a goat. But this son of yours who wasted everything comes back, and you slaughter the fattened calf. This son of yours, not my brother." The father stepped closer. "My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate. Your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." The music played on. The door remained open. The elder son stood in the darkness. The story ends here. We are never told if the elder son went inside. Jesus left it open on purpose, because he was not telling this story to the prodigal sons. They already knew they needed grace. He was telling it to the Pharisees, the elder brothers, the ones who obeyed every rule and secretly despised those who found mercy. The ending was not in the story, it was in the room. Maybe you have been the younger son. You left. You chased something that promised freedom and delivered emptiness. You wonder if it is too late. It is not too late. Maybe you have been the elder son. You stayed, you obeyed, but your heart grew cold. You serve out of duty, not love.
The father came outside for the elder son too.
Whoever you are, wherever you have been, the door is still open. You do not have to be clean first. You do not have to have the right words. You just have to turn around. And when you do, he will run. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Luke 15, verse 20. Come home. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel. We tell stories that remind you who God really is. Not a judge waiting to condemn, but a father watching the road. Leave one word in the comments. Home. I will see you in the next one.